Hi, today we're going to talk about the lookup functions. We have several lookup functions. We have the HLOOKUP function, we have the VLOOKUP, and the HEXLOOKUP. This function find data in table and return a corresponding value. So let's take a look on how each functions work. VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP searches for a value in the first column and returns a value from another column in the same rows. You can definitely see the syntax: VLOOKUP into lookup value, table array, column index number, and range lookup. We have the HLOOKUP function, which is horizontal lookup. The VLOOKUP is called vertical lookup. So let's talk about the HLOOKUP, which is the horizontal lookup. Similar to VLOOKUP, but searches in rows instead of columns. So basically, VLOOKUP searches in column, while HLOOKUP searches in row instead of columns. Now we have the syntax, which is HLOOKUP, lookup into lookup value, table array, row index number, and range lookup. Meanwhile, we have the XLOOKUP, which is the modern replacement. The most powerful and flexible lookup function available in newer Excel function. And syntax is XLOOKUP, lookup value, lookup array, return array, if not found, match mode, or search mode. So let's take a look on how this can be used. Basically, we understand that lookup functions find data in a table and return a corresponding value. So let's take a look on how we can use this in Excel. Let's start looking into the lookup function in our Excel, how you can use those lookup function in Excel. So start with the VLOOKUP, which is the vertical lookup. So we're going to write the syntax for VLOOKUP, which is equals to VLOOKUP, the lookup value. So assuming you're working with the difference between the HLOOKUP and the VLOOKUP is that one is horizontal, the other one is vertical. So your lookup value should be around the row kind of lookup value, while for HLOOKUP, your lookup value should be around that of the header and some others. So we are going to still look into each and every part of it. So for HLOOKUP, we're going to VLOOKUP. We're going to say VLOOKUP, then this mechanical, and the table array. We're going to start with here. So let's start with here, and we're going to start counting the column index. So here we're going to start 1, 2, 3. So which is going to be, and we're going to say exact. So now it will return the value that we're doing the lookup value for. So that is how we use VLOOKUP. So let's check for some of the possibility errors in VLOOKUP. For example, let's do equals to VLOOKUP. Let's say this is the product's name, then on the table array, and let's say table array equals to this, and the column index equals to 3. Now you can see the possibility of having an error is because, one, we didn't reference our data properly. So it's saying any not found. So let's reference it to the
let's reference it here and see if there's going to be, so it's still going to bring an error. So let's do 4. Let's do 4. It's still going to bring an error. And why is it bringing an error? Is because we our lookup value is here, but our referencing, our table array is covering everything. So in VLOOKUP, our table array is supposed to cover from here down to the last. So from the lookup value down to the last. So let's try and readjust this, and let's try and readjust this and say we cover from here down here. So you can see we really gotten an answer. So you can see some of the possibilities of errors in VLOOKUP if you don't know how to make use of all these things. So let's do for HLOOKUP. So let's go to the regional test and do HLOOKUP. When you are doing the HLOOKUP, which is the horizontal, you are testing the row, you are looking up for rows. So let's try and do something like this equals to HLOOKUP, and the lookup value must be here. Yes. So why are we giving the lookup value here and not other way around? So when it comes to each lookup, then if you're testing for the row, or if you're testing for each lookup, your lookup value the must be your lookup value must be around the column part, while your index number that you're looking up for must be the row. For example, it lookups like this. So it will look up, if you say row number 2, it will look up from row number 2 and link it up. What is in row number 2? So if this is row number 2, right? So it will check what's in row number 2 that matches this particular one. So it's going to say, oh, this is 400, and it's going to look up for the value here. For example, if you pick not, if you pick here, so it's good, and you say, oh, row number 2, so it's going to look for row number 2 and then return not. And same to others. So that's how it works. For example, let's say we want to look up for this region and we want to say look up value for all, then what's the row index. So we want to say the row index is row number 3, right? If you count 1, 2, 3, so this is row number 3, then, and exactly match. So you see it returns out. So if you do for the rest, it's going to return something. So what is the possibility of errors here? So let's say each loop, then you now say something like this. I said not, then you say table array from here down to here, and your row index is now true. So your row index is still true. So you see the possibility of error here. So it's going to return any, because what you're saying is that okay, look out for what is in this part. Then using the row index number 2. So it's still going to be I'm looking up to the sentence, so it's not going to work or function. So it's not going to return a good response. So let's say it's 3. It's not going to return anything in 3 too. So it's going to check, okay, so it's not going to return anything in 3, so it's going to return the same error. So let's say it's 1, it's not going to return anything. Basically, those ones are calculated to be an header. So the best way to do it is you use all these ones, your headers, to look out for every other thing inside this particular part. So for example, if you want to check for quarter targets 4, I want to take for quarter target 4, which is going to be if E1, right? Then I want to check for concept target 4 in 5. So you can see it will look into 5 here. So I'll say 5 here. Then it will return concept target 4 in 5. So that is how you use the HLOOKUP function. So let's go back to this table and use the XLOOKUP. When it comes to XLOOKUP is naturally the perfect lookup for everybody because it is the latest and it can do anything the way you want it. So, for example, if you do XLOOKUP, then it will require you to do a lookup value. Assuming the lookup value is this, the lookup array. So now when it comes to XLOOKUP or other lookups, it is going to require you to cover every from here to here, right? But it's going to this one is just going to cover just the lookup array where your lookup is. Then it's going to say return array. That is to say, look up into this. Then I want you to return from this. I want you to return from this, right? Then you can now do any other thing. But if you want to do if not found, for example, if this particular thing is not found, write this. If it is match mode or anything, you can actually do that. So, for example, you can see you can put that, you cannot put that. So you just going to look up and easily check. You don't need to do much work and much rigorous work about this particular part of it. So you can see how the two. Let's do another example. Uh, X look, let's say webcam, right? And lookup array is here. And return array is you want to check for supplier, and that's all. So you can see very simple and straightforward. And here it's going to look up and check and return the lookup value. So that's that about XLOOKUP. And maybe in some of our videos, I'll show us how we can use a drop down and XLOOKUP together in a way that you like to, that you enjoy how XLOOKUP can be used, how you can easily check everything and it will be a perfect balance for everyone. So thank you for joining this particular section. Uh, can you watch for out for another video? We're going to be doing much other videos later. Thank you.